For this project, we're going to take the drawer and door construction to the next step. These will be inset drawer and doors, so that the door face and drawer face will set inside the cabinet frame with a reveal that's uniform all the way around. We're also going to use drawer glides, ball bearing, full extension. These have a 100-pound rating and they're pretty reasonably priced. They come in two parts. There's the part that mounts on the drawer and there's the part that mounts in the cabinet. These are available in black, white, and in the chrome. To begin the drawer construction, like we did before, I'll set my glides in position and measure between them to account and figure out how big my drawer is. I also will account for the fact that I'm going 3/4 inch thickness of a drawer face, so I'll take 1 inch off the depth of the cabinet to determine the length of my drawer sides. So I've pre-built the drawer, and now let's install the hardware so we can show you how this drawer mechanism works. The first thing we need to do is determine where the drawer is going to be positioned in the opening. We've made the drawer 1 inch shorter, just like we did before, coming up 1/4 inch and down 3/4 inch. So we have also a 4 inch tall drawer. I'm going to mount the hardware at the center point of the drawer. So come up 2 inches from that point. So 2 1/4 inches will be the center line of my drawer hardware. With the drawer face 3/4 inch thick, I want to leave a 1/8 inch dimension between the back of the drawer face and the beginning of the hardware, and you'll see why in a moment. So I'll set my set my gauge to 7/8 inch and place a mark. That's where the front of my drawer glide is going to go, and that's the center of the screw holes. I'll take my drawer glide apart. There is no left and right, they're uniform. And it works best if you open it about halfway, and I can set that right in position. And what I'm doing is I'm lining the bottom of this mechanism up with that line that we created, and then checking the screw hole to be sure it's centered on the line. Then I can attach the first screw. To complete the installation, I just want to make sure the drawer glide is square. Now there's another way to do this if you have multiple drawers to install, and that's to make a jig that fits between the top of the drawer glide and the top of the case. So I would rip this piece to fit, set it in position, install the drawer hardware, then I can flip the cabinet over, put the piece on the other side, install this glide, and I know they will be perfectly parallel. To install the remaining hardware, it's narrower. It will also go centered on the drawer side, 1/8 inch back. The reason that is there's oversized holes in the drawer glide inside and on the side of the cabinet, and that 1/8 inch allows a little bit of movement to make sure when I put the drawer in its final position, it gives me a little room to adjust in and out and up and down. Draw a line 1/8 inch back. On both sides. Find our 2 inch is the center of our 4 inch tall drawer. Again, I've made a jig. I can set the hardware in position, line it with that 1/8 inch mark, and drive my screws. So we slide the door in and snap it in. Now the drawer will work freely, and we've completed a full extension drawer glide installation. Now it's time to make the door and the drawer face. I'm going to make the drawer face from solid wood with an even reveal all the way around. I'm also going to make the door to fit inside with an even reveal all the way around. The reveal is going to be created by the thickness of the hinge. So I'm going to use a non-mortise hinge that's installed on the edge of the cabinet. The nice thing about these, I don't have to cut a mortise into the side of the cabinet or into the side of the door. And the way the hinges have elongated holes allows for adjustment in and out and up and down. I've chosen to make this door with a stub tenon and groove joint, and I've made it so that it pretty much perfectly fits the opening. I've done this because I want to trim it to have an even reveal. If, for example, this rail was slightly askew, I want to be able to trim this to make that fit. I know in this example that my hinge is 1/16 of an inch thick. My door perfectly fits the opening, so I'm going to rip a 1/16 of an inch off each edge of the door. To cut the top and bottom edge of the door, I really don't want to cut it at the table saw like this because my stock is narrower than it is wide. What could happen is I push it through, it could kick back and throw the panel. Kind of a dangerous operation. So I'd much rather have a crosscut sled that I could cradle this in and really control the cut. To do that, I've made a piece of material that's the same width and height, maybe even just slightly taller than the surface of than the groove in my table saw. I've taken a piece of 1/2-inch plywood and added a backer strip. I've got some double-faced tape that I'm going to put on the runner. To ensure the fence at the back of the sled is square to the blade, I use my rip fence as a guide. I want the end of the sled to extend past the blade slightly. You'll see why in a moment. Press down to stick the runner to the sled. Then flip it over and drive screws to secure it. With the runner secure, I trim the end of the sled so now I can align the cut line on my workpiece with the edge because it's exactly where the blade will cut. We're going to install glass in this door. Now, whether you use the stub tenon and groove method or the cope and stick method, the process is the same. We're going to remove the tongue right here so the glass can be set in. We'll put a glass stop in place. That way if the glass breaks, you can remove it and replace the glass. It also gives you the option here with glass of doing some things different. Stained glass, reeded glass, different things to maybe emphasize the design you're looking for. So even though I have a router mat, I still like to clamp it to the table, and we're going to route. Now, normally I would route this direction, but because we're going to be coming into this end, it can split out. So what you may find is that climb cutting is actually a more preferable method. We'll go ahead and route it, and then we're going to take a chisel and we're going to clean up the corners where the router couldn't reach. I've cut my glass stop to fit, and now I'm going to install it. Now I can do this two ways. I could use some wire brads, drill the holes ahead of time, set them in place, set the brad in place, and use a tack hammer and tap them in. But I really like to use a micro pinner, a 23 gauge nailer. The holes are so small that you really can't even see, and you don't have to fill them. Now, normally I would have my finish on the project before I install these, but for demonstration purposes. So I can just take my pinner, set it in position, now it's time to install the drawer face. I've trimmed the door face to size, making it the same length as the door is wide, and also cut it so that I have a 1/16 inch gap top and bottom. To install it, I'm going to use the hinges as a guide. Because we're using the thickness of the hinge as our clearance around everything, we might as well use them as an aid when we're installing the drawer face. So I can just set it in place. I've got double face tape on the back, center it in the opening, and clamp it. I'll drill my hole, going 7/8 of an inch deep. I've installed the hinges so that the top of the barrel is even with the bottom of the upper rail, and the bottom barrel of the lower hinge is flush with the top of the lower rail. So now we need to install it in the cabinet. The best jig is a 1/4. I've laid the cabinet on its side and placed the door on 2 pieces of 3/4 inch scrap material. Now I can slide the door until the barrels touch the face frame, bring it in contact using the 1/4 as a spacer between the bottom of the cabinet and the bottom of the door, and then drill my hole. I've got my hinges installed. Let's check the fit. Oop, I'm touching right here. And I've got a nice gap here. Using our panel sled, we'll be able to clean that joint up. I've placed my door on the sled, and I've lined up this top edge of the door where I don't want any material removed with the edge of the saw blade. Down at the bottom of the cut, I've made it so that my 1/16 of an inch is overhanging the end of my sled. Make sure everything's pulled tight, and now I need to shim the bottom of the door. It looks like I can probably do just a business card will do it. Maybe 2. Yep, there we go. Flush up here, slight gap down here. Oh, that's much better. Now we can put the knob and the catch on. I've installed the knob as we did before, and now I've added a spring catch. I installed it just about 1/8 of an inch below the top of the door. I'll add the receiver and close the door, and then I can reach in, grab it, open the door, and now I can mark where those screw holes belong. If you don't have a drawer opening, if your back is not attached, you can reach through to also hold that spring catch. I also want to take a minute to talk about knob location and that spring catch location. If the door is going to be open generally from the center of the door, I'm going to put my knob near the center, or maybe in the direction towards I'll be reaching. Like an upper cabinet that may be this high off the ground, I may put it in like the lower third of the door. Maybe down a little lower, I might move it down. If this is an upper cabinet, I'm going to put the knob down here. But I'm also going to try to put the spring catch as close as possible to the pull action of the knob so that I'm not having a catch here and twisting on the door every time I open and close it.